Mass forms are used in Revit to explore different kinds of design options as far as how the building's shape and appearance might be before even the first wall or floor is drawn. In this case, we have some mass objects that have already been drawn. And to manipulate these mass objects after the initial shape has been created, one of the things that could be done is to select on the mass shape, click on the arrow associated with it, and then drag that arrow up or drag that arrow down accordingly. By clicking on these individual shapes and pulling some of these faces out, we can then begin to manipulate the form and get a better feel for this is the kind of space, this is the kind of shape we want to have with our design. These actions are important for the next step that we're going to do, which is once these shapes are in place, we want to apply walls to the face of each of these shapes. And there's really two different ways that we can go about doing it, one way for each of two different types of wall. To begin with, we need to come underneath the Architecture tab and select on the Wall tool. And technically, we could pick any wall that we wanted off of this pull-down list here, the Type Selector list. In this case, though, I do like generic 8-inch wall, so that's going to be the kind of wall that we use. Over here toward the right-hand side, there's an option called Pick Faces, and this is going to be the command that allows us to pick the face of the individual mass and then apply that wall to the shape. And we can see that here in the preview image where we have an unconventional mass form, and now that wall is conformed to the outside of that shape. And we're going to do that here, so we're going to select on the Pick Faces tool, move down here, and then make sure that the location line says Finish Face of Exterior. This means that the exterior side of this generic 8-inch wall will be applied directly to the face of this mass object right here. So if you click, continue this all the way on around, we'll see that the walls apply themselves directly to the face of that mass object. And I'd like to do the same things with this wall and this one, as well as these two side walls here and here. Now we have walls placed around there, but they're still kind of difficult to see. So the next thing we should do is come down toward the bottom of the screen, select on the Visual Style button, move up, and then pick on Shaded. If we want to spin this around to get a better look, we can hold down the Shift key as well as the wheel button on the mouse to rotate it around and view these walls from different angles. The next thing I like to do is start to place curtain walls along this, including at this gabled end, as well as these two spots here. To accomplish this, unfortunately, we can't use the same command that we just did. You'll find that when Revit tries to do this with a curtain wall, it'll usually fail. Because of this, they've included a special tool which will allow it. Now, that tool can be found underneath the Architecture tab in the Curtain System command. When you do, it'll say 5x10 curtain system. Now, we can manipulate these settings if we wanted to, but I'm happy with the 5x10 curtain system. Highlight over each face just like we were doing with the regular walls. Then come up here to Create System to create that system. Do the same thing with these two walls here. Come up to Create System, and now we have that curtain wall system coming around here, and it's now flush against the face of our individual mass objects. One thing is, though, is that this really is a curtain system and not a complete curtain wall system, if you will. The reasoning is that all we have now are the individual curtain wall panels here in place. We still need to place in mullions. So to accomplish that, underneath the Architecture tab, we can select on the word mullion. Go to All Grid Lines, pick this, and now we can see that we have the mullions going around the outside. And do the same thing with these two on the sides. So far, it looks nice. We have a better visual experience as far as how this is going to look. In fact, if we hold down the Shift key and the wheel now and spin this around, I think we have a pretty good idea of what our building design is going to look like. One thing, though, that I'd like to do is I'd like to manipulate this mass object again. So I'm going to hit the Escape key a couple of times, highlight over the mass object, and we can tell that it's highlighted if this entire section turns blue. And then I'd like to pick on this arrow and then pull it up so this is just a little bit taller than what it was. Click out in the space. Now when you do this, though, you'll notice something interesting. Those walls that we assigned to the outside of it did not automatically update. To get them to automatically update, you need to select back on the mass object and then go up to Related Host. When you do, it'll pick everything that was hosted to that mass object. From there, you can do Update the Face. and it will automate the process of stretching those walls out and take on the new shape of that mass object. So, to apply different walls to your mass objects, you need to do it in one of two different places. Either come over here underneath the Architecture tab, select on Wall, and then use the Pick Faces tool, or if you're trying to do this with curtain walls, you'll find that curtain walls typically won't work. So, underneath Architecture, come the Curtain Systems, and then apply a curtain system to the outside of the mass objects. Then use your mullion tools to finish off your individual curtain walls.